So, good afternoon. This is the first afternoon snackage. Thank you so
Excellent.
much. It is. It is. So,
Thank you for having me.
Jennifer, you're the first one. How about?
I'm happy to hear. I'm not actually snacking. I'm drinking tea out of my Dachshund mug.
Oh, cool. Very
So
cool. Do you have? I take it you
I
have
do.
dachshunds.
I have a mini Dachshund. Yeah.
You have one.
Yeah. She may show up at some point during
Okay.
our chat.
People with dachshunds tend to have more than one. They tend to have packs of them, two, three,
I have a
four.
neighbor who has two, which is
Mm-hmm.
one of the reasons I got one because I fell in love with them. And I do occasionally take two or three sausage dogs on a walk at the same time, and that stops traffic. Like
Ah,
people will stop their cars and roll down their windows and be like, "Oh my gosh, are those all your dogs?" Like, one of them is mine. I loan out the other two. But yeah, a little sausage parade. It's good times.
yeah. My father-in-law, he loved dachshunds, so he had two of them. So here we have it. So I am in the New Orleans area, and Jennifer here is in
I am in
Canada.
Edmonton, Alberta. Yeah. So Edmonton is the northernmost city in North America with 1 million people. If you're watching the Stanley Cup playoffs, we're the home of the Oilers who bowed out in round one.
Oh, that's okay. They stay in the hunt though all the time, right? They're a
Yeah,
perennial.
they're a good team. They're a good team.
Okay,
Right
all
now,
right.
the lone Canadian hope now is the Montreal Canadiens. So
Oh, okay. All right. All right.
perhaps.
Good luck to Canada
Yeah,
on that one.
contractually obligated to be a hockey fan. It comes with a passport. It's a whole thing.
so so Dr. Jennifer Askey, she is my breakroom buddy, and Jennifer is a coach. You have shifted careers pretty interestingly. You
Yep,
started in academia, but now you're coaching people in academia.
correct. Correct. So I used to be a
Ah,
German professor. I got my undergraduate degree in New Orleans at Tulane. And after being a faculty member in German languages and literatures, my family moved to Canada and I ended up retraining as a coach. And so I work exclusively with academics, academic leaders, faculty and staff leaders on both like individual and team. Um, Alignment is a word I like to use. Like as an individual, are you planning and acting in alignment with your real goals, or are you setting goals and then doing things over here that don't have anything to do with them? And as a team, like, do we know how as academics to come together and collaborate effectively in ways that are personally rewarding and institutionally valuable?
okay, okay. That is a really interesting place to start. By the way, I am snacking this afternoon. I have nuts. I'm only going to stick with the cashews, though. I'm not going to mess with the almonds because they get stuck in your throat. The shavings get stuck in your throat.
They
They
do, and
do.
cashews are nice and buttery.
Yeah, and I don't need to be sitting on the afternoon snackage. You know, not the first one. We'll wait until
we'll,
another one
we'll,
to do that,
we'll work up to food noises.
and then I have strawberry lemonade. So
Ooh,
yeah, strawberry lemonade is what I'm sipping on in the break room. So
that's
so
nice.
interesting thing. I have this weekly radio show that I do. I interviewed Mike Fisk, the president of Tulane, and I got him to do a role
Roll.
play.
Yep, yep. I will. I showed up at Tulane. I mean, this might date me a little bit. I showed up at Tulane right after the NCAA ban on the men's basketball team
Oh
lapsed.
man! Oh man!
So my freshman year at Tulane was the first year that they had a men's basketball team again that could compete in the NCAA. After
Oh
I
man!
believe it was point shaving.
Yeah, it was. It was. A friend of mine was on the team. A friend of mine was on the comeback team. A guy named Craig Heiser.
Yep.
Yeah, he was one of the players.
It was cheap fun because it was like, oh wow, look, basketball, exciting. Let's go try that out.
Yeah. So yeah, yeah. And to be clear, Craig was on a team that came back. He wasn't
Right. Not the
not on the
point
other.
shaving team,
Yeah,
post point shaving.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. Yeah. So you mentioned working with individuals and teams, and what I'm doing on afternoon snackage here. something that impacts everybody in the workplace, and that is communication and collaboration.
Yeah.
Higher education notoriously is a siloed environment.
Yep.
The people who you coach, existing in an environment like that, how do they manage communication and collaboration, and where are their struggles with it?
I think that's a great question, Eddie, because universities, whether they're public or private, governance is set up in a way that contributes to siloing, right? Everything requires a committee. Those committees have to have representation from stakeholders. And so collaboration, whether it's like at the university governance and policy level, within a school, within a department, on a curriculum committee, it's all structured according to like representation. Like your type of job has to be represented here, or your discipline has to be represented here. And so collaboration becomes like subject matter experts get together and try to make a decision. And
I've been through this, yeah.
Right, and I work mostly with faculty, and so there you have subject matter experts who maybe share the same subject matter expertise, and then they have to come to a decision and they have to agree, or find consensus or find common ground. And when we structure collaboration in sort of rigid ways, like we have to have somebody from the provost office, and we have to have somebody from government relations, and we have to have somebody from Marcom, and we have to have somebody from the faculty. Sometimes it works, but it works based on how invested the people in the room are to building relationships that allow them to have genuine communication.
Yes. And one of my early struggles working in academia, especially going in as a PR director, was that everybody sat at the table, and what I got from it was that they would judge the communication and collaboration. They would judge it based on their perception of expertise and rigor. And so if everybody thought they should have a say in PR, marketing, communications, because to them it's not rigorous. And so it's like, oh, well, we don't have to test anything. You just go out and do it. Just write your little press release. However,
right, and let us look at the language, because maybe we don't like that word, or like the number of meetings I was in where faculty members in particular wanted to wordsmith things. I'm like, I get the impulse. I like a well-turned phrase, but that isn't really going to contribute to the success of this project.
Yes, and the big barrier there as well was that everybody would want to write it in their academic style. And I'm sitting here going, AP style is very different from APA. You know, it's like, no, I need short, punchy things that the general public will understand really quickly. And so, no, I can't let you wordsmith this press release anymore.
Right. I've been out of the professoriate for years and years, and I still have to really look at what I write and say, like, okay, is this Professor Jennifer sneaking in here, or is this Jennifer who really wants to communicate with people who are potential clients or current clients? Because like not everything needs to be a scholarly journal article.
So all of these voices at one table, be it virtual or in person, and everybody has input to some degree. My experience has been is that has created more barriers than has smoothed out the process in some cases. And and what I've detected is that it's because of people's difficulty with self-regulation in a lot of those cases.
I am not going to argue that, because I think that's actually a really good explanation for what happens there. I cannot remember who made the joke. I think it's been variously attributed to Einstein and a bunch of other people about like people in academia fight so tooth and nail about things because the stakes are so low, but they're also very much tied up to your identity. Like if my voice doesn't carry the day here, then I'm not doing my job, because my job is to be the person with the answers, the person with the knowledge. And so if people are unable to separate the work from their identity, that creates huge barriers to being able to have like really collaborative, fruitful discussions.
Yeah. And where I've seen a lot of that happen, and this actually happens in healthcare and law a lot
So
too.
that doesn't surprise me. Yeah.
Yeah, this happens with them a lot because you have these people, they have a level of expertise, and they have to be highly credentialed to
Yeah.
even do what they do.
Right.
And so what happens in a lot of those cases, it seems, is that people they 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 tend not to really get to a place to understand the impact of language and tone a lot of times, and even vocabulary.
Right. Yeah.
Because again, I'm the guy sitting at the table trying to simplify everything because I know that I need to either externally, I need to get something out to the public so that the public understands it.
Right.
Internally, I'm trying to reach the entire campus.
Right.
And contrary to popular belief, even though we have a bunch of really smart people on campus, it still has to be simplified so that everybody can understand the context of what the messaging might be for whatever it is.
Right. Because if that newsletter or email or post hits their inbox or their screen, they don't want to have to sit and interpret it. And especially in the humanities and social sciences, like those faculty members, they're writing in order to demand interpretation. And yeah, switching out of that tone into a tone that is really generously communicative is a challenge. One of the things that I work with, and in coaching and consulting, there are all sorts of tools and assessments that you can do with teams to help them sort of diagnose and become aware of what their team dynamics are. And my favorite one, it's called the Belbin Team Roles Framework. And it posits, based on almost 50 years of research at this point, that successful teams, and in academia, you don't always get to create your teams, right? They're created by the bylaws, they're created by the committee structure. So being aware that like a really successful team needs to have people who approach their work through an ideas lens, right? So subject matter expertise and disciplinary knowledge, evaluating the best of the possible choices, maybe sort of the out of the box ideation thinker, like those sorts of idea focused voices are important. People focused voices are also important. People who willingly put their hand up, people who are good at delegating, people who know other people and like making connections. Like we need those folks too in order for a great collaborative process. And then we need action folks who are like, let's put the plan together. Let's do the project management and implementation and tick things off and make sure it gets audited and edited properly. And then somebody needs to be, setting the pace. And what I have found in a decade of doing this work is it's very common across academia. I'll say it's slightly more common even in the faculty and academic half of the university, is that you get a lot of ideas people and a lot of people and fewer action people. And academic training selects for that, right? Yeah. Academic training self-selects for people who like to hang out in let's create cool ideas. And when it comes to bringing together like cross-campus committees to get stuff done, you have a whole bunch of folks whose entire career has self-selected for, let's create good ideas and let's evaluate our options and let's talk about it and wordsmith it and maybe get the right people to the table, but like making decisions, making plans, implementing them. In my experience, that tends to not be the leading strength of a lot of scholars. And I think I see that dynamic play out a lot across universities, whether it's like university-wide committees or department politics. It's like, we can talk stuff to death. But that doesn't mean we're going to jump into action without a lot of prodding.
So what we have is a case of a lot of people who they're in their heads. They're just constantly in their heads. And to your point, that's how they're kind of trained to be.
Right. That is a successful tactic for them in their main job.
So how do you get them to consider the other folks sitting at the table so that there can be some productive communication and productive collaboration?
Yeah, yeah. You and I, Eddie, have talked before about like leadership development on university campuses and how it's kind of a hit or miss sort of thing,
Yeah.
depending on the kind of institution you're at and what their priorities all are. And I used to develop leadership programming for a big Canadian university. And one of the things that I think is necessary to move people from like, I'm an individual contributor of my academic career or an individual contributor of my career in the registrar's office or in the government relations office where like I'm responsible for this thing. Like to move from being responsible from that thing to being able to do really collaborative work, it requires that we up-level our self-awareness. Are you aware of your default pattern when it comes to doing this work? Are you aware of what the strengths of that default pattern are? And are you aware of the potential weaknesses of that default pattern? Right? One of my defaults is like, I'm a good networker. Oh, we need so-and-so at the table. Oh, I was talking to so-and-so about that, right? Like, and that's a great contribution. But I tend to, the associated weakness of that is like, I'm really good at the outset of a project. When we're on the tail end of the project, where we're dotting I's and crossing T's and maybe writing the final report, I want to be off drumming up ideas and people for the next thing. And so if I'm aware of my own patterns, then I can hopefully maybe collaborate with people who complement me or know when I need to pull my socks up and like do the hard work, even if it isn't fun. So there's a self-awareness piece and managing that self-awareness. Like, okay, if I know this about myself, what do I need to do? And then there's like relationship management. Can I learn, even as an old dog, can I learn that my way of approaching this work isn't actually like the etched in stone most perfect way to do that? That there are other valuable contributions, and it is good for me to listen to other people's perspectives and approaches on the topic, because if it's just a bunch of me in the room, we're not creating anything new and the energy kind of tanks. Yeah. So it's a self-awareness and relationship awareness up-leveling that I think is required to really do collaborative work.
I would be interested in, let's say it's your tenured professor of history who's on a committee. And I mean, and I'm kind of picking on history faculty because they have such a specific way of seeing things sometimes.
Yep.
And I would be really interested in a question, like if they're in a meeting and they're just not making a connection with everybody else at the table, I would be interested in how they would respond to the question, okay, by the time this is all said and done, what do you want to see? How do you want to see this all turn out? And whatever your answer to that is, how do you think you can help get there? Because I think I find that a lot of people aren't challenged with questions like that, especially in academia. I find a lot of people are not challenged with that question. And when they are challenged with the question, they're like, well, that's what we have a president for, you know, they'll say things like that. And it's like, yeah, but what role do you play in this? Right.
That question of how do you need to show up to the work in order for the good work to happen? I ask that question of my clients all the time, and frequently it is the first time that has ever been asked of them. Like, how does your affect, your language, your stance, your position, like how does that impact the work and what is in your control? Because I mean, and we know, as like if you're a faculty member, you know that you in the classroom versus you in a department meeting versus you in the library or the lab, like those are three different versions of you, and you kind of know which one you need to put in the lead based on context. But when it comes to university collaboration, that becomes so much less clear. Who am I in this room? Am I supposed to be a pedagogue? Am I supposed to be a scholar? Am I supposed to be, because department meetings and faculty meetings, Well, we could tell lots of stories about how those are not always very collegial places. And I think in part is because people don't know how to show up as like a contributing member to a whole that we believe in strongly, even while we're trying maybe to defend our spot in that whole.
Yeah.
And for humanities folks, social science folks, I mean, the war against humanities has been going on since before I entered grad school. And so these people sort of feel beleaguered about their perceived value within the institution. So when they show up in institutional contexts, are they showing up in a defensive way? Like, please listen to me because I'm important here and my voice is important. And that's true, but that defensive posture doesn't contribute to great collaboration or communication.
But isn't that how faculty are trained? Faculty are trained to defend, constantly defend.
Because their colleagues are trained to find the tiniest little hole.
Yeah.
And just poke and poke and poke. Yeah.
Oh man.
Yeah.
Okay.
I cannot remember where I read this. And that's a darn shame because I was talking with Rich Boyer, who's the CEO, I think is his title, of Modern Think. And it's the survey organization that runs the Great Colleges to Work For program. Shows up in the Chronicle of Higher Ed supplement every fall. Talking to him about this, and because the survey looks at faculty and staff satisfaction and engagement, like an employee workplace survey for universities. And he says that over the 18 years he's been doing this, humanities faculty and librarians are across the board the least satisfied people on campus. I'm like, oh, I got you. It is because their training in libraries and in the humanities, their training suggests to them quite strongly that they and their disciplines are the moral compass of the institution. And so the actual real institution that we have can only disappoint them.
Everything makes so much more sense,
right
now.
And so like those long historical trajectories of how do we value disciplinary knowledge, those show up in your faculty senate meeting. Those show up in your cross-campus committees, because an engineering professor is going to walk into the room with a different stance than an English professor based on how they view their role in the institution.
Oh man. All right. So what's your parting shot here? I mean,
my parting shot is look at my dog.
Yeah, I was about to say, hey dog, how are you?
Isn't she cute? So my parting shot is that self-awareness is key, and understanding, like, how do I like to work and show up to problems and discussions, and how do my preferences serve me in getting great work done, and how might my preferences be getting in my way? And being willing to ask yourself, like, okay, I see how I work. When I look at the other people in my department or in my unit, can I see, like, oh, they're not the people, they're the detail people, or they're the idea people, right? Can I differentiate good work across multiple modalities and not just assume, like, well, I do it this way, and so that's obviously the best way to do it.
Okay. All right. Well, that was really that was I wish I had a conversation with you before I started Marcom in higher ed. I would have had a head start on a few things.
I will say I didn't see it when I was in it, right? It's leaving that role and working with people from the outside where I'm like, okay, I see how this plays out. And I see why I felt so beleaguered as a humanities professor, because I felt like my role and my value at the institution was under siege. Even if that's not true, we're sort of invited to feel that way. And that bleeds into how willing we are to collaborate and make compromise.
Yeah. Hey, what's the dog's name, by the way?
This is Sadie.
Hey, Sadie. Good to see you, Sadie. It's good to meet you.
Yeah, this is her early afternoon. I got to look out the window time. So she crawls up here so she can peek out the window over my shoulder.
Oh, well, I understand that. I think that's really cool. It's a good, good
It's a good
tradition.
routine. Yeah.
Yeah, my dog can't do that. She's 110 pounds. But
That's
she
a lot of
tries.
dog.
She
That's a lot of
tries.
dog. Oh wow, that's a
She
lot of dog.
yeah, she is a very playful Rottweiler, and she thinks she's a dachshund actually.
Right? Yep, yep. Everybody wants to be a lap dog, really.
Mm-mm,
They
no,
all do.
not this one. No, my foot is going to sleep right now because she's sleeping on it.
Excellent.
Jennifer, thank you so much. And of course, Jennifer's information is available right here on
Yep, and
LinkedIn.
you can find me on LinkedIn. And if you want to talk about team roles and putting together teams or working with the team that you have and working with them more effectively, I am more than happy to have that conversation virtually and in person.
Very cool. Jennifer, thank you for being my break room buddy, my first one.
It has been a great break, Eddie. Thank you so much for inviting me. And I hope that spring in Louisiana treats you well.
It will.
Thanks so much.